So what's next? Maybe a bit of cake. Some days maybe some egg bake, but not today. Oatmeal bake today. What's next? Maybe this afternoon a party, maybe some family, some friends, then a short week of school, a picnic, maybe another party, more family, more friends, and then what? What's next? Yes, summer. No school, no homework. Sounds good, doesn't it? Maybe a little bit of vacation in there. Get to do a little bit of fishing maybe, resting, relaxing, hanging out. Sounds good, but what do you know? Because you're some pretty smart people. What do you know? What comes next isn't all comfy and cozy, is it? And I'm not just talking about the summertime shores that are going to be coming. And yes, they are coming. But what else is coming? Next year? High school, right? New year. And new things. And not just for 8th graders going on to a new place. I know we have people who are moving on to new places, different states in this country. And so we have people, many of you, looking ahead to new places, new people, new experiences, and some of that new can be kind of exciting. All right. And some of that new can maybe have us feeling a little bit unsure, maybe even a little bit worried, afraid. But what do you know? You know what your God says to you. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. You know what your God says to you. And you know what your God can do for you. Like with Israel, out of Egypt, through the Red Sea. God gets his people out of trouble. Like David before Goliath, like Daniel in the lion's den. Your God makes his people brave. Brave to stand before the world. Or like that lamb in your Jesus' hand, your God holds his people safe. But I don't always feel safe or strong or brave. Sometimes I feel afraid. And that's not the worst of it. When I hear those nice words, that nice promise from God, do not fear, for I am with you. When I hear nice things like that, there's sometimes I might wonder, how do I know those nice words, those promises are for me? Because I don't feel him tapping me on the shoulder when I hear it. I don't hear him, a special voice going on in my head. What I do feel, what I do hear is, well, look what you've done. How could you do that? Why did you do that? Why can't you get it right? I do things and say things that frustrate and disappoint people. Sometimes I'd even anger people. And so it's really easy to think, well, I must do things and say things that gets God disappointed and frustrated and angry with me. And what do I know? I do things, I think things that make me feel guilty. Oh, that make me feel yucky. And so what might I think? That I do things, that I say things, that I think things that make God see me as guilty and yucky. And so why? Why would God want to get me out of trouble? Why would God want to make me strong and brave? Why would God want to hold me safe? Why? Ever feel that way? Well, here's why. Because God has chosen you to be his. God has called you to be his. And God has put his name on you. Oh, we were blessed this morning in baptism. God has put his name on you and called you his. Now we might think, but look what I've done. Oh, don't look in there. Don't look at what I can think. Look at all the trouble I get myself into. Look at the trouble I cause other people. No. Don't look at that. Look at him. Look what Jesus has done. Jesus, he was born into our trouble. And he called it his. Jesus was loaded down with our sin and guilt. God put our sin and guilt on Jesus, and Jesus called it his. Jesus took God's punishment, God's anger, the punishment and anger that we would have coming against us for what we thought and done, and Jesus called it his. But Jesus didn't just take, Jesus traded. He gave his life and calls it yours. He gave his death and he calls it yours. He gave his holiness, his love, his place with God in heaven. He gave himself and he calls it yours. So that now when you get in trouble or even get yourself into trouble, instead of thinking, well, God must be against me. Or now when you're feeling guilty, yucky inside, instead of thinking, God wouldn't want to have anything to do with me, now with Jesus, you get to go to God. You get to go to God and pray, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. God, get me out of this mess. God, get me out of this mess called me. God, help me. And with Jesus, he does. With Jesus, he says to you, I love you. I forgive you, full and free, everything. With Jesus, he says to you, you get to move on. You get to move on past your guilt. You get to move on past your fears. You get to know you have God for you. And he says to you, do not fear, for I am your God. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you and uphold you with my righteous right hand. Why? For what purpose? Well, what's next? Let me warn you. It's something more than cake and oatmeal bake. And what's coming next is something more than resting and relaxing and hanging out. What's coming next is even something more than new places, new faces, new experiences, some exciting and some a little bit fearful. What's next is, well, let me put it this way. How many of you have seen that new movie, the Avengers movie, Endgame? Many of you. Not so many in the front row. Yeah. I haven't seen it. In the office, Mrs. Lichtenauer said if I were to go see it, I'd be clueless because I wouldn't know what's going on. Some people think I'm clueless all the time. But that's something else. Reading up on that movie, hearing some things about that movie, what is it about? It seems to be about a battle between good and evil, life and death, a battle of epic proportions, a battle of cosmic significance, a battle for the heart and the soul of the universe. Well, your theme verse this year comes right out of that battle. Maybe not that movie, but Isaiah chapter 41, where our theme verse is from, that's what that chapter is about. A battle for the heart and soul of the universe. And we find in that verse what? God isn't promising us an easy life, rest, relax, and hang out. And while God is promising us help with new faces and new places and new challenges and experiences, God is also doing something more here in this verse that you have set to your heart and mind. God is setting us up. God is getting us ready for that battle between life and death, between good and evil. He is getting you ready to battle for the heart and soul of the universe. Do you know where you fit into that battle? You are God's special agent servants. Just as Jesus was God's special agent service on God's mission, you are God's special agent servants on a mission from God. Just as God had something special for Jesus to do as a special agent servant, God has something special for you to do as his special agent servants. And so God doesn't say, do not fear, just so that you can rest, relax, hang out, just so that you can do whatever you want. No, God says, do not fear, so that you can be brave to do his thing. So that you can be brave to do something that matters to God. And God doesn't educate us. ABC, 1, 2, 3, reading, writing, arithmetic, just so that we can be smart in this world and get ahead in this world. No, God educates us so that we can be smart for his thing. So that we can say, so that we can do things that matter to God. And when God chose you, back before all time, when God chose you, when in your lifetime he has called you, when God gives his promise to you, he doesn't do all that for you just so that we can feel good about ourselves. No, God has chosen you. He has called you. He gives you his promise to make you strong for his thing, to do things, to say things that matter to God. Just like Jesus. Just like Jesus. When God set Jesus up as a special agent servant, Jesus didn't pull back, oh, why do I have to do that? No, Jesus saw what he would be able to do for us. He saw you alive, forgiven, safe with him in heaven. And at the same time that he saw you alive and safe with him in heaven, he also saw what God would do for him, how God would make him strong, how God would keep him safe. And so with God in his heart, with you in his heart, Jesus gave himself over to the plan and promise of God as God's special agent servant. He did what God gave him to do. As God's special agent servant, he did what we need done so that we can have life with God. So now what? What's next for us? Well, in our next stage of life, whether that's going on with high school and deciding what classes to pick and what school to pick and so on, or whether we're graduating from Sunday to Sunday afternoon, and then to Monday, God willing. In all those different graduations, you get to find a way to live, not just for yourself, but a way to live for God as God's special servant agent. How? It's no secret. We live in a world of hurt, don't we? I think we all know people who live in a world of hurt. As God's special secret servants, special agent servants, you get to care for those people. You get to share the heart and the love of God with those people. And you also know what? That we live in a world of temptation, a world of evil, a world of injustice as God's special servant agents. You get to fight temptation. You get to find a way to fight temptation, a way to put evil in its place, even a way to undo evil with the love of God. Yes, as God's special agent servants, you are on a mission from God. A mission from God to battle for the heart and the soul of the world. Does that sound daunting? You have his promise. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. As God's special agent servants, you get to bring God's blessing to your world. You get to be God's blessing to the world. Amen.